If you've ever wished you had a podcasting pro with nearly a decade of experience whispering growth secrets into your ear, that's exactly what you'll get when you tune into Podcast Growth Tools with me, your host, Kylie Chandler. This is the ultimate show for you if you're ready to grow your podcast audience, skyrocket engagement, and turn your show into a traffic-driving, list-building powerhouse. I've been in the podcasting world since 2015, helping creators like Amy Porterfield grow their shows to over 1 million downloads a month. My superpower? Breaking down proven podcast strategies and marketing techniques into step-by-step guidance you can actually implement without fluff, overwhelm, or guesswork. On this show, we're getting real about what actually moves the needle when it comes to growing your podcast audience and using it to boost your email list growth. From actionable insights and expert interviews to behind-the-scenes secrets, I'll help you turn your podcast into a traffic-driving, list-growing machine. Grab your earbuds, hit subscribe, and let's take your podcast to the next level. Hey friend, okay, let's make this simple. What if there was one tool that could grow your email list, boost your downloads, and convert your listeners into customers, like paying customers, all without reinventing the wheel every single week? All right, so fun fact, it exists, and I call it a podcast-centric quiz. It is literally one of the most powerful tools that I have ever used to drive real growth for podcasters who have an online business. So I got to thinking, I was like, people ask me about this all the time. I talk about it all the time. But today I want to give you a little behind the scenes breakdown of how it works, why it's so effective, and how you can implement it inside of your business. So I'm going to show you how to turn your podcast into an evergreen lead generating machine that grows your list, drives more downloads, and ultimately becomes a top of funnel asset for your business. So no gatekeeping here. I'm spilling the beans. I'm spilling it all. This is literally what I do with my clients, and I hope it serves you. I hope it gets you excited to create this podcast-centric quiz. And by the way, before we dive into this episode, this episode is so tangible, I'm so excited. Make sure you have notes ready. I want to invite you over to join my newsletter. And it's not just your typical newsletter. We have so much fun over there. Every single week, I am dropping podcast knowledge bombs, growth knowledge bombs, tangible things you can do. I'm giving you industry updates with the side of personal stories, all of the good things. It's really juicy. I would love to have you over there. So go ahead and go to podcastmarketinghub.com/subscribe. Every week in your inbox, you are going to be getting this really powerful, rich newsletter that's going to help you start to understand how and what you need to be doing to grow your podcast and to attract your ideal listeners and then turn them into qualified leads that are eventually buying for you. So I'm always spilling all the good things on that. So again, head to podcastmarketinghub.com/subscribe and hang out with me on my newsletter. Okay, so let's get into the power of a podcast-centric quiz. So what is it? Well, essentially, it's an interactive quiz that helps your audience discover exactly what podcast episodes they should start with based on who they are and what they need most. This is perfect for online business owners with digital products, services, anything like that. You can even be a consultant, you can be a contractor, you can have digital products, you can have digital courses, you can have PDFs, like whatever. It all works great for this, so long as you have a podcast that's established and that you are pretty much an online entrepreneur. And this actually really supports people who have a very large back catalog, because I want you to put yourself in the shoes of somebody who just finds your podcast. If they're brand new to your show, it can really feel overwhelming to know where to start when you have like 200, 400 episodes, right? So the podcast-centric quiz really solves this by offering a curated and guided experience for your listeners. So along with that, it also, this is why I love it so much, it grows your email list with highly, highly qualified leads. It drives consistent traffic to your show by offering curated, binge-worthy content. And then it nurtures those leads through a very tailored, very intentional email sequence that builds trust and then leads to an aligned offer that makes sense for that specific person and their personality and their needs and their desires and the identity that they are trying to step into. So, what I want to do first is I want to look at some quiz numbers. So, I love this. This is so exciting. So, ears up, listen, be paying attention because this is going to change the way you think about quizzes. So, quizzes as lead magnets tend to convert at 40 to 50%. Okay. 40 to 50%. While traditional lead magnets, like we're talking about like a checklist or a PDF or an audio series or something like that, can you guess what they convert at? If you said 20 to 25%, you'd be correct. So we're talking about a massive jump in converting, actually converting, like lead magnets that are actually converting. So why the difference, right? I believe it's because quizzes just feel personal. They spark curiosity. People always are looking to learn about themselves, and they're more likely to engage with something that is interactive like this. So I actually believe that quizzes do so much more than just collect emails. Like I said, they convert better. So think 40 to 50% versus 20 to 25%. They're more likely to be shared. This is proven. They help you segment your list and speak directly to each person on your list. So it helps you to get super focused on who you're speaking to within segments of your email list. And then it serves up a personalized podcast playlist that aligns with where they are, what they need, and then your offer. So it's super seamless. And let's be real, I really believe people are craving more tailored, relevant experiences today. You know, there's been something going around called a trust recession. And I see it. I think we all see it, especially as online business owners, as podcasters. But showing your audience that you get them from the jump is a game changer. So here's why this is a game changer for you as a podcast and a business owner. It helps you to build a list of qualified leads, people who are already primed for your offers and eager to learn more. You can literally market more strategically by sending the right offer to the right segment of your audience instead of blasting the same email to everyone. You'll get a crystal clear view of who's actually in your audience. And you might be surprised to learn that maybe they're further along than you thought, which can totally shift your content approach and what you create next, right? I see this all the time with my clients. We'll create specific buckets. We'll talk about this more later to help you understand like how big of a deal this is, because my clients always are so surprised by who is actually in their audience. And then you are able to establish trust and connection from the very first touch point. And we both know that trust is what leads to conversions and lifelong customers. So this isn't just about growth. It's about clarity, confidence, and creating content and offers that actually move the needle in your business. Okay, so get out your notebook, get out a Google Doc, whatever you need. We are about to get into the real detailed step-by-step of how to build out a podcast-centric quiz funnel. I'm going to break it down as easy as I can, very step-by-step, simple, strategic, and how to make it fun to create and use. Okay, so step one, you have to identify your audience buckets. So most podcasters, online entrepreneurs serve a few different sub audiences. These are essentially your buckets. Think of maybe beginner, intermediate, or advanced, okay? Or strategy focused versus mindset focused. So there's different ways, but whoever that is for you, define 3 to 4 audience types and align each one with one of your offers. And make sure that they actually line up with the audience type in a way that feels very natural, feels very intentional. Okay. So this one, this part of all of this creation takes quite a bit of time. I want you to spend time here and get really clear and intentional. And what you might find here is that you start to get new content ideas. You start to get new podcast ideas, new lead magnet ideas, new course ideas, new PDF ideas. Like there's so many wonderful things that come from this. So step 2, we're going to move into creating the quiz. I like to use platforms like either Interact or Score app, just depending on the type of your quiz. And then obviously tools like ChatGPT or any sort of AI can really help you draft your initial questions. initial, I say that intentionally, right? They're just helping you kind of start to get the concept, get some ideas for questions. And then I want you to sit down and I want you to take it from there, make sure it matches your tone, it matches and aligns with each bucket that we talked about, all of those things. And a quiz is fun, right? So even if you're a more serious business, it can still feel very friendly, very helpful, that really we're here to guide someone to the right outcome, right? So that's when we create the actual quiz. So step 3 is where we map the nurture sequence. So this is so important, right? This is going to take some time, and it should, because this nurture sequence is extremely personalized. It's extremely intentional. So what you're going to do is you're going to create an email sequence for each bucket. I recommend 7 to 8 emails long. You'll space them out kind of every couple of days. Obviously, you'll start with delivering the playlist and building rapport. That just start there. Next, you can move into introducing who you are, who you help, why that matters to them. And then after a few emails, I recommend kind of in those first 4 emails, you're really reminding them of the podcast playlist. You are maybe giving them some other free resources that will really serve them where they are. And then we get to bridge and move into our offer. And this is where your quiz taker's unique needs are going to align with what you provide. So that's why we spent so much time making sure that we really understand our buckets and our ideal customers and then the offer that would serve them best. So what I recommend is in your email, just begin presenting your offer in kind of a soft, very story-led way. And then you can move into testimonials, reviews, things like that, that are really going to show the value and the results that that person can take so they see themselves in those stories. So obviously you'll move through a section where you're doing your offers. I recommend a few emails where you're offering in different ways. And then here's kind of the unique thing that a lot of people don't do is that at the end of the email, for those people who didn't buy, so of course you'll have some non-buyers, what I recommend doing is sending them a transition email to welcome them into your weekly newsletter and just explain to them that, hey, it's totally fine that this offer didn't serve you right now. I still want to support you. I'm always here to give you, guidance and free resources. So here's what you can expect. And then you just give them a rundown of, what your newsletter is all about, when they're going to receive it, what they can expect from it. And this continues to nurture them because guess what? They might not buy during that first initial sequence, but down the road they might, right? So we want to let them know that we're still here to support them even if they didn't buy. And then, of course, what this is all about, we have to build a podcast playlist, which means that we are creating one that's curated of your best, most aligned content for each quiz result. So what I love to do is create a really pretty PDF that somebody can download or whatever it might be, or just have available to them on their phone. But then, a lot of people are also moving to Spotify. So I like to use Spotify to create the playlist on there. So it's really great for Spotify users. There's so many ways that you can do this, but really think of it as the greatest hits for each audience type, right? Each bucket. Okay, so what do you do? Now you have your podcast-centric quiz created. You have your nurture sequence scheduled. It's ready. What do we do next? So I actually, if you've heard me say this before, this really is what I mean by it. Treat your podcast like a product. So we're going to host an actual quiz launch promo week, which means you're going to hype it up on your podcast. So, right, you can do dynamic ads. You're going to use social platforms to push it out. You're going to do email marketing with it. You can do pop-ups and banners on your website. You can really push it out to people within your community. And then if you're up for it, you can also, I recommend this, run some ads, to a cold audience. These tend to get really good cost per lead and really high engagement again, because even if it's a cold lead, they are so intrigued by this quiz, right? They want to learn about themselves, right? And something else I'll say is that after the promo week, I would recommend continuing having your quiz kind of in the background and still collecting cold leads if you're driving, an ad campaign to it, or just using it every once in a while, maybe on your social media page, you promote it here and there. So thinking of that. And the other thing I'll say is what you might find or what you might be thinking is, well, I don't want a bunch of people just from my audience taking the quiz. A, you will have people from your audience take the quiz. And B, you'll have new people take the quiz, right? So we want a mix of both. The beautiful thing about people in your community is they're already warm to you, but maybe they haven't bought from you, or maybe they stopped listening to your podcast just because life happens. So you giving them this quiz means that they're probably going to go back, start listening to the podcast again. I've seen this over and over again. Or they're going to be led to an offer that they're super on board with, A, because they're already in your audience and they know, like, and trust you. And B, they just didn't even know that offer was available to them. And so there is nothing wrong with your existing audience taking the quiz. Okay. All right. So let's shift to the quiz has been created. The promo week has been held. Now what? Here's the best part. Once your quiz funnel is set up and running, it can kind of hum along in the background quietly, but pretty powerfully, doing the work for you, right? Consistently bringing in those qualified leads. What I recommend doing is kind of giving it a pulse check maybe every few months and just notice, like, okay, can I update any episodes that are on these playlists? Have my buckets, my audience types, have they changed at all? Has my offer changed? Do I want to offer something else? Do I want to test it? How is my email sequence, my nurture sequence? How is it performing? Are people falling off? Should I tweak it based on that? Look at your quiz. Are people falling off? Should I tweak it based on that? So you have this beautiful funnel built. Now all you have to do is small tweaks along the way. Okay, so a podcast-centric quiz, it's not just a fun and simple way to grow your email list. It's actually a strategic tool that drives traffic to your show, segments your audience, increases your conversions, and creates loyal, invested listeners. Okay, so thank you for being here today with me. If you loved this episode, I highly, highly recommend you come and hang out with me on my newsletter. Every week, I'm dropping knowledge bombs around podcast growth, podcast marketing, industry updates, all of the good, juicy things. You're going to absolutely love it. So go ahead, head over to podcastmarketinghub.com/subscribe, and we can hang out together on there. If you have any questions, please DM me. You can find me on Instagram at Kylie J. Chandler. But of course, I'm so grateful that you're here. Go ahead, leave me a review, share this with a friend. Let me know what you think. I always read these, always looking for new ideas or how I can serve you better. So again, thank you for being here, and I'll see you next week.